Okay, so if you are a big fan of Bluey, you have a massive possibility of being missing one very important thing in the whole series, and it is about Bingo. But suppose Bingo is not the baby of the house, but the smartest of the whole series? Stay with me. Everyone always talks about Bluey. And yeah, fair enough, she's literally the main character. Bingo is smarter than everyone realizes. And not that she is smart like she is doing algebra at 4 years old. I mean, the type that you just enter the room and within 30 seconds, you read every face in the room and they know what to do. Bingo just seems to have it naturally without anyone teaching her. Like she came out of the womb emotionally calibrated and the show just lets her exist like it's nothing. Just a 4-year-old red healer quietly being more emotionally evolved than most of the humans I know personally. Now let's actually talk about who Bingo is for a second, because I feel like people have her miscategorized. Long story short, she's the younger sibling. She's cute, a little shy, and basically follows Bluey around. That's the general vibe people pick up, and honestly, it's not wrong, but it is massively incomplete. Because if you're only seeing Bingo as Bluey's adorable little shadow, then you're watching the show with your eyes half closed. You see, Bingo isn't tagging along. She's observing every single time. There is always something going on behind those eyes, and the show keeps hinting at it, and I genuinely feel like not enough people are picking it up. We had been impressed so much by the energy of Bluey that we did not see who was next her. Think back to Sleepy Time. That episode alone should have made everyone stop and completely reassess everything they thought they knew about this child. Bingo has a dream that is essentially a beautifully animated meditation on growing up and the love between a parent and child. And she processes all of it on her own, in her sleep, through space imagery and classical music. The way she moves through the dream, navigating vast star fields and floating alongside planets, carries an emotional weight that is both profound and delicate. It is astonishing how much the show trusts her inner life to convey meaning without dialogue. Already at her young age of 4, she is emotionally preparing attachment and independence into her head like a mini psychologist. By the end of the episode, Bluey, our beloved, has come to learn that lesson because somebody has taught her. But Bingo lived it from the inside. There's a difference there, and it's not a small one. And if you're not convinced yet, let's head back to episode 43 of season 1, the camping episode. On the camping trip, Bingo and Bluey meet Jean-Luc, a French kid who speaks zero English, and within the span of one afternoon, they build this whole friendship that doesn't need words. No shared language, no translator, just two kids who figured out how to actually see each other. That's not something you teach a 4-year-old in a classroom. That's emotional intelligence running so deep, it bypasses language entirely. Bingo doesn't stumble into that connection. She creates it. Most kids her age are still learning how to share a toy without a meltdown. Bingo is out here forming cross-cultural bonds through pure feeling and presence. The show never draws attention to it, never gives her a gold star for it. It just happens, naturally, because that's who she is. Most adults cannot do that. Most adults meet someone who does not speak their language and immediately panic or give up or pull out Google Translate and make the whole thing awkward. But they just went, okay, cool, and connected anyway. We cannot just reduce all that to mere cuteness. That is a real skill right there. The kind of communication coaches charge people actual money to develop, and she does it without a second thought or any performance. It is effortless and genuine in a way that adults rarely manage. Now let's talk about the Bluey and Bingo dynamic, because this is where it gets really interesting. They are not the same person, obviously. Bluey is outspoken and vocal and imaginative, and she runs with everything that she is feeling at the same time. She is the type of child who puts her entire heart on the table at first and then realizes how she feels about it afterwards. It is thrilling to watch because you never know exactly what she will do next, and yet it always feels authentic and rooted in her emotions. But Bingo moves differently. Bingo watches first. She sits with things. She feels them out before she responds. In Takeaway, for example, while everyone around her is kind of unraveling, Bingo clocks her dad's stress before he even fully shows it. She sees it happening and she responds to it gently instead of adding to the chaos. And she's not even trying to be impressive about it. She just does it because that's genuinely how she's wired. Dance mode is another one that gets me every time. She gave up something she actually wanted because she understood what her family needed at that moment, and she made the call quietly. No big announcement, No waiting for someone to notice how selfless she was being. She just did it and moved on. That kind of quiet sacrifice is something the show does not frame as a lesson the way it might with Bluey. It just shows Bingo doing it like it is obvious. Like, of course you would do that. And that is what makes it land. There is no dramatic music cue telling you to clap for her. And while we are building the case here, the Muffin Cone episode deserves a mention too. Because that episode is chaotic in the best way and everyone is mostly focused on Muffin being completely unhinged, which fair, she absolutely is. But look at what Bingo is doing in the background of all that chaos. She is managing it. Not loudly, not by tattling, not by having a meltdown of her own. She just stays calm, redirects, and finds ways to keep things from fully falling apart while Bluey is also trying to hold everything together. Two kids doing emotional crowd control on their wild cousin, and Bingo makes it look effortless, like she's been quietly studying people this whole time. The Doctor is another good one for this. When the game starts getting emotionally charged and things escalate the way they do in kids' games, it is Bingo who quietly shifts the direction of it. She provides comfort instead of dominance. In this episode of Bluey, she shows that she does not need to win the game, she just needs everyone to be okay. Those are genuinely different goals, and she has already figured out which one matters more. You can almost see the calculation behind her eyes. Not competitive, just caring. Now, here is something you might have been thinking about though, and most people would want to be careful how they say this, because it sounds a little shady, but they actually mean it as a compliment. Bingo is kind of a gentle manipulator. Now hold on, not in a bad way. Not in a scheming villain way at all. More like she understands the social dynamics of life well enough that she can steer clear of them without anyone knowing that she is steering. In Butterflies, when Judo and Bluey get on bad terms, Bingo does not step in to referee. Instead, she nudges the mood of the game in a subtle way, and suddenly the tension dissolves. It is not flashy. It is just quietly effective, like she knows exactly which emotional thread to pull. Again, nobody called her a genius for doing it. The episode doesn't stop to point at her and go, "Look what she did." It just happens and moves on. But she did that. She read the room and she quietly fixed it. And in Shadowlands, she does something similar, nudging rule changes through empathy rather than throwing her weight around even though it was Bluey calling the shots up front. She gets what she wants without ever making it a confrontation. Some people spend decades trying to figure out how to do that. What makes it even more remarkable is that Bingo never seems to know she's doing anything special. There's no calculation behind it, no strategy. It comes from somewhere genuine, some natural fluency with other people's feelings that most adults would kill to have. She's not performing emotional intelligence, she's just living it. And the show trusts her enough to let that speak for itself. No musical sting, no parent pulling her aside to say, "That was really mature of you." The writers understand that the moment you narrate growth out loud, you cheapen it. Bingo's depth lands harder precisely because the show never explains it. It respects the audience enough to just let her be who she is and let us catch up on our own. But that is the thing about Bingo's intelligence that I think makes it easy to miss. The show does not announce it. It does not give her a moment where everyone looks at her and goes, "Wow, Bingo, that was really emotionally mature of you." It just lets her be that way and trusts the audience to notice. Which, to be honest, is a very calculated and bold creative decision. And it also translates to a significant number of people not paying full attention to what is going on because we are conditioned to expect the lesson that is being spelled at the very end. We are trained to wait for applause cues, for a neat moral wrapped up with a bow, and Bingo rarely gets that framing. By the way, would you agree that Bingo is the character who feels more like Chili than anyone else in Bluey? The similarity runs deeper than surface traits or shared softness. That homeliness, that earthiness, that near-instinctive sense of remaining cool in the center of whatever gorgeous mess Bandit and Bluey are making together. That is Chili across her entire emotional repertoire, and Bingo has quietly absorbed it. It feels less like imitation and more like inheritance, as though she has been watching, learning, and choosing which parts of her mum to carry forward. It is the healer house that is operating on this amazing, anarchic, and happy energy that makes it one of the loveliest fictional family formations ever projected on screen. And yet, all that energy has to be grounded, weighted down, and both Chili and Bingo are fitting that role at their own low-key level. Chili is keeping the adults on their toes, and Bingo the same with the kids around her, and neither of them is making a production out of it. They just show up, and the room feels different because they're in it. Chili is like the anchor for the adults, while Bingo is the anchor for everyone else. Without her, the whole emotional balance of the show would tip, and you would feel it even if you could not name why. She does not boss anyone around to hold that role either. She just exists in a way that makes people around her feel steadier. And that is not a small thing. That is actually kind of everything. There is a calmness to her presence that seeps into every interaction. A quiet gravity that holds the little storms of the show together without calling attention to itself. And this leads me to one of the more frequent subjects of discussion in fan spaces on the internet, and it is really one of the more poignant areas of discussion regarding this show. Adult viewers and neurodivergent viewers are the ones who might find themselves relating to Bingo more than they expect. And when you consider how she has been written, it is not difficult to see why. She wishes to think first and actually thinks, and to think that the show never presents it as indecisiveness or vulnerability, but simply as a part of her character. It is both validating and quietly revolutionary to watch a child character be thoughtful in a world that often rewards speed and reaction over reflection. Her reactions take a beat longer and carry more weight because of it. She doesn't perform her emotions for whoever happens to be watching. She actually moves through them, processes them, lets them settle before she responds. And there's a realness to that which a lot of people recognize in themselves without ever having seen it reflected back at them in a kid's show before. There are whole threads dedicated to this. Comments from people in their 20s and 30s talking about what it meant to watch a character like Bingo exist so unapologetically in a world that usually rewards the loudest person in the room. So, it should not come as a surprise to hear people in their 20s and 30s say that they had not realized how much they needed to see that type of kid in action until Bingo. Funnily, such a character mostly becomes the character who must be rescued. In Bluey, she is the heart of the show. And it's not an accident. The writers were perfectly aware of what they were doing with her, and they never felt the necessity to clarify to us what they were doing. Watching her in action, you notice the subtlety of her choices, the way she quietly influences those around her, and the understated confidence she carries. It is the kind of character that grows on you slowly, almost without you realizing how much she has shaped your understanding of what a child can be on screen. Joe Brum, who created the show, has talked about how Bingo was designed to explore sensitivity and vulnerability through play. And that comes through so clearly when you're watching her. She's not soft in a fragile way. She's soft the way water is soft, if you get what I mean. She works around things, she finds the path that doesn't require force, she gets where she's going without crushing anything on the way there. If you ask me, that's actually extremely sophisticated behavior for a 4-year-old fictional cartoon dog, and it's a hill I am willing to die on. However, what is most touching to me is how the show so softly places Bingo as the teacher to Bluey, without it being so direct or it being named one thing, or covered with an adorable little lesson at the end of an episode. Bluey becomes adventurous, makes mistakes, crosses boundaries, and learns by the time the credits roll. That is the format of the whole show, and it is very good. No one is contesting that. But there is also the manner in which Bingo leaves a mark on the emotional realm of Bluey simply through its presence in the latter. Her mere reaction to the things, her ability not to make tension even more tense, her being able to love people without demanding anything dramatic in her return, just the manner in which she does so. Bluey watches all of that, and it gets into her quietly, the way the best lessons always do, without her even realizing it's happening. Their relationship is so layered and genuinely reciprocal, and that trust is part of what makes Bluey so extraordinary as a character in children's media. We talk endlessly about Bandit's dad moments and Chili's quiet sacrifices, and the way the show somehow makes grown adults sob in their cars over a cartoon. But the conversation doesn't nearly enough land on the fact that so much of the show's emotional architecture quietly runs through Bingo. To be honest, Bluey is one of the best kids shows ever made. We talk about Bandit's dad moments. We talk about Chili's quiet strength. We talk about how the show makes adults cry in the Woolworths parking lot. But we don't talk enough about the fact that a big chunk of the show's emotional weight is carried by the smaller, quieter kid in the red fur. So yeah, Bingo isn't just the cute little sister. She's not just along for the ride. She is genuinely the emotional intelligence of this entire show, walking around in a small red healer body, diffusing tension in reading rooms and loving people in this incredibly quiet and precise way that most of us are still figuring out how to do as actual grown humans. Bluey gets the title. Bluey gets the theme song. Bluey gets the memes and the merch and the entire name of the show slapped on every piece of kids' clothing at Target. But Bingo, she is the one who already figured out the whole thing. She's not waiting to learn the lesson at the end of the episode. She already knows. She's been sitting there this whole time, watching, feeling, understanding, and frankly, she's just been waiting patiently for the rest of us to catch up. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think of Bingo and her smart side? Tell us in the comments if you relate with her character and why. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and we'll see you in our next one.